Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. If you're absolutely in love with the New York Knicks like I am, I recommend clicking that red subscribe button down below and lighting up that post notification bell so you do not miss any future content on this channel. So today, I'm bringing you guys another draft breakdown video, and this time it's on Johnny Furphy, who's actually the 6'8", 200-pound small forward coming out of Kansas. He also has a 6'8" wingspan. He doesn't have a ridiculously long wingspan, but he does have decent length. But no, it's not like Giannis that, he's currently 6'10" with a 7-foot above wingspan. He's not built physically like a freak, but he also is a good athlete. And I believe he's like one of the most interesting prospects in this draft when I really took a look at his film, because there's some things that definitely translate to the NBA right now, but from a physicality standpoint, defensively, of being an on-ball defender and finishing through traffic, can that translate to the NBA right now? We'll wait and see, but I definitely do think it's maybe going to take him 1 year in the G League. He is pretty raw, but again, he has talent. He's young as shit. He's 19 years old, and he wasn't that number one option at Kansas because they had very experienced, good college basketball players that have good habits out there on the floor, such as a Hunter Dickinson, who's one of the best players in college basketball, or who was transferring over from a great program of Michigan. He was a 17-point per game scorer, 4-year college player. He was getting 14 plus shots per game. And then also, if you take a look at, they have Kevin McCullough, who's actually a 5-year college player transferring over from Texas Tech to Kansas, and he's in this year's draft, who's a 15 plus point per game scorer. So those guys were definitely doing the shot creating. Do I think that Johnny Furphy needs to get better when it comes to his shot creation? Yes. But if he's put in the right role, he's not going to have to do so much and look to create to get a mid-range jumper. But it is interesting when it comes to his weight. If you go on ESPN, they have him at 200 pounds, but most recently, when he was measured when it came to the combine, it was 188 pounds. So maybe he gains more weight this offseason. He actually talked about that in an interview, that he wants to gain weight, and he has a great work ethic. And if the Knicks draft this guy, and maybe they don't because he is kind of a project right now, and 35% from three, some of you guys may think like that's average, but if you see this guy's mechanics, I think he's going to get better as a shooter. He's 19 years old, and you have to take a look at Deuce McBride. You have to take a look at, does this dude have the mental makeup? And I really believe it does. Deuce McBride was a 30% three-point shooter his freshman year, but he put in the reps, he got better, he continued to put in the work, and then became a 40% three-point shooter his sophomore year. Take a look at his career in the NBA. I know he didn't have as many opportunities like earlier on in his career the first couple years, but he was struggling from three. I would say his mechanics were a little more clunky, and look what happened. He got better as a three-point shooter. He was one of our top three-point shooters, especially when it came to the Philly series. I know he was kind of shaky up and down in the Pacers series coming off the bench, but you see when you have the mental makeup, when you're willing to put in the work, you could change the narrative that you're an average three-point shooter, but he was 76% from the free throw line, 35% from three, average 9 points, he averaged 5 rebounds, did average 1 assist. So if the Knicks draft this dude, they really have to believe in, is he mentally tough? Can he deal with New York? And it's not like you're taking him top 10, but where I really think he's going to go, it's very interesting because, again, he has some things that could translate to the NBA right now, but there's some things he needs to work on, and I think he's a decently high upside. I don't think he'll be a star. I think he'll be a very solid, maybe role player in the NBA or a very quality starter at best, but we'll see what goes on to happen. I could see maybe a team like a threat to the Knicks, Orlando. They're like, this dude could shoot. He has some athleticism. We're going to be getting into his game. He can go as early as 16 until but then up to like the mid 20s. So maybe he falls. Maybe he goes early. Maybe the Knicks trade up for him. Again, I'm not sure how interested they are in a Johnny Furphy. Obviously, we went on to workout done. If they did work out Furphy, I'll put it on the screen if I find any reports when it comes to that. But again, some people don't think we want to draft someone that isn't ready right now, but I don't have a problem with drafting someone if he gets to 24 and stashing him in the G League. But again, this is why I do these draft prospect breakdown videos. I like to make these videos and kind of have you guys make the decision of who you like down below in the comment section. I'm not saying they should draft this dude. So when you take a look at Johnny Furphy, like I said, he wasn't the number one option at Kansas. They had Hunter Dickinson and they had Kevin McCullough. And Kevin McCullough is currently in this draft. He's one of the older prospects in this draft, coming over from Texas Tech, 5-year player. So when you take a look at Johnny Furphy's offensive game, I really believe in him to be a very good three-point shooter at the next level. 35% is very solid right now. I would say that's around average for his position, but I think he can get up to 37, 38%. He has the good mechanics, beef when it comes to balance, just locking in like with his eyes and his elbow, just follow through, all of that. Like, he does an excellent job when it comes to his overall mechanics. He's on balance, and he can even shoot off of movement, which I really do like. But I think how he's going to be set up, he's going to be set up with dribble handoffs. He's going to be set up with some elevator actions. He's going to be set up with as well as some flare screens. Like, they're going to do a great job getting him involved if it's even in the G League. Like, he's going to prove that he can shoot the basketball, and he proved that at Kansas. He's a difficult shot maker, and you can't leave this guy open. You can't. I really believe he's going to be a consistent knockdown three-point shooter. He has a very smooth release. And 76%, I think that can get even better. But again, I mentioned McBride. If you have the work ethic, you can continue to get better. As a shooter, it comes with reps, it comes with opportunity. But I really believe he's going to be a good three-point shooter. He's going to be set up by his, again, screens and his teammates finding him, because he can't create, like, from three. He doesn't have a step back three in his arsenal. He doesn't. He's not shifty. His handle definitely needs work. That's one of the weakest parts of his game. He does not have a very strong handle. But what I like when I watched him is that he doesn't try to do too much. He understands that his handle isn't fully developed right now, so he doesn't try to do too much with the basketball and turn it over. He does a really good job playing his role, but I also think Kansas did a good job with that as well, because they understand that McCullough is more experienced, and they understand Dickinson's more experienced, and like, those are the most seasoned guys, and they have a lesser chance of making mistakes, and they're just natural scorers of the basketball. So I really like that. Like, he understands his game right now, and I do think his shot's going to translate over to the next level. But right now, as of right now, he does not have a mid-range game. I've seen like a couple shots literally when watching his film that he was able to operate and get to a mid-range. But as of right now, it's a simple fundamental pump fake and take one dribble and pull up from mid-range, or like one sidestep dribble three-point. Like, he is not a very versatile, unpredictable scorer of the basketball right now. He definitely needs a go-to move, no doubt about it. And he does sometimes have to use that off-arm a lot to create separation. He can't create a lot of separation off the bounce as of right now, and his shot's easy to be altered. I'm not gonna lie at all. But when you take a look at it, what I want to see Johnny Furphy really perfect, I don't need him to be a Kevin Durant level scorer from the perimeter and be able to have all these counter moves. No, I don't need that. Like, if you're an NBA scout, you just want to see him improve, knowing how to like attack those closeouts, because that's literally going to be the story with him at the next level. If it's in the G League, if it's in the NBA, he's a threat to shoot the three ball. And they're going to close out hard on him. They're going to make sure they don't leave him alone. And maybe at first they're going to not respect him, be like, all right, let's see if he can really shoot at the next level. But if he improves as a three-point shooter and gets even better, or he stays where he is at now, just very average, he's going to have to learn how to really drive hard off of those closeouts, add an in and out, just something fundamental to work downhill, draw fouls, or use the rim and backboard for protection. And he actually is a very solid cutter. Like, he recognizes when the defense falls asleep, and he does a really good job cutting backdoor, cutting baseline, and he utilizes his athleticism. If there's an open lane, he could throw it down. Like, he is a good athlete, and he's an even better athlete in transition. He knows how to leak out. He does a very good job of communicating with his teammates, and he doesn't take a play off. That's what I love, but he's very smooth in transition. He's a good athlete. So right now, he's not a creator, but I would say he is smooth, and his touch at the rim isn't great, but his touch on the perimeter is good, if that makes sense. It just seems like he needs to learn how to protect the ball better when going to the basket and become less predictable. But again, he's young, he's 19 years old, he's still figuring out how to use his body. He's overall raw when it comes to that department. His defense is probably the most interesting player I've evaluated. He's the most interesting player I've evaluated when it comes to his defense, because there's moments he's a terrible defender, but then he's like very good at the same time. Because as of right now, he gets beat a lot going to the basket. It seems like he's a step slow, and sometimes he falls asleep off the ball and he loses his shooter, but he plays very hard. If he falls asleep, I believe it really comes to an IQ standpoint and a miscommunication. I feel he doesn't just leave guys wide open on purpose. No, I think it really is an experience thing, and he's gotten better when the season went on, when it came to communication, switches, when certain ball screens were being set. But he's not very fast on his feet when it comes to defending twitchy, athletic players, and he's obviously playing at the small forward position, so maybe some people think he's going to translate as a bench player at best, because he can't defend starting threes as of right now, and guys are just able to beat him to the rack. But his hands are excellent defensively. Like, he comes up deflections. He does a really good job clogging the lane. If the ball's in front of him, he knows how to swipe and get that thing very cleanly, and he knows how to throw it ahead after a steal. And I like that he pushes it afterwards. But I talk about, sometimes he can get blown by, or he can be out muscle. He definitely needs to get stronger. But again, sometimes I wonder if it's a footwork and just him getting stronger and he could be better as an on-ball defender. I think he's going to be a good off-ball defender. He knows how to jump the passing lanes. But when you see this guy rebound the basketball and just hustle in general, it just makes me think I think he's going to get even better. And he has some Josh Hart in him when you watch him play. The way he wants the basketball, like he wants the fucking basketball. He doesn't care that he's one of the skinniest players on the floor. He's like, no, I want it more than everyone else though. It doesn't matter like my size. Like it seems like he has that type of mindset that he fights after 50-50 balls. He wants to give his team that brand new possession. He's not lazy. He's the opposite of a lazy player, and he's very mature because when I listened to his interview, he understood that he has to get stronger at the next level. When there was I believe it was draft combine interview, I'll end up putting it on the screen.
You're your own person, right? But do you model your game or take parts of other people's game and try and implement that yourself?
Yeah, certainly. I think there's a few players I look up to, kind of model myself, my game off. A few players come to mind, be Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, those kind of like tall wings. I kind of model myself off. Yeah.
But he didn't compare himself to Durant. He said he models his game after a Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges, which are some of the some very solid players in the league. I know Cam Johnson had an off season last season, but we know when he's on, he's a very solid defender. He's a good 3-point shooter. Mikal Bridges, you could say the same thing. He had kind of a, I guess so many people had like high expectations for him. People thought he was like number one option after the way he closed out the season, and the Nets, they weren't a very good team, and I do think he was not as good defensively. Again, maybe we'll see him in a different situation and he'll be more locked in, but he has the length, he's a good defender. We know he's a decent shot creator, he can shoot the three, like he knows his role. So that's the mindset I love from Johnny Furphy, that it seems like he knows his role. But when you watch this man play, smooth shot from the perimeter, even off movement, coming off screens he can knock down threes, doesn't currently have a mid-range. He's hit like a few mid-range shots in his college career. When he works down the lane, he needs to get better when it comes to physicality, likes using that off arm, but he does a good job extending with that arm and trying to get as close to the basket and trying to overall use his physical profile. But he is a good athlete. Like he has long strides in transition. That's a quality of him being tall. Like he can get to the basket pretty fast in transition off of a pass or even a handle. Like he's a decent enough handler in transition, but in the half court, don't expect him to make high-level reads offensively. He was a 0.9 assist guy. And again, he wasn't one of the top options. He didn't always have the ball in his hands. He didn't take a lot of shots. So some people do wonder, even though he's still raw, what would he have looked like if Hunter Dickinson wasn't there? What do you think he would have looked like if Kevin McCullough wasn't there? And when you take a look at his career, he, like at Kansas this past season, he was only the other player, second player on this team to be a 35-plus three-point shooter. The only other player on the roster that shot 35 plus from three was DeJuan Harris. So there was a lack of spacing. And when you and DeJuan Harris are the only guys that consistently space the floor, and that comes with efficiency, because when you take a look at also McCullers, he was someone that took 14 shots per game. He wasn't very efficient from three though. He was under 35% three-point shooter. So when I look at Furphy, he's definitely going to need like at least a year in the G League to get stronger, but he's a good head on his shoulders, and he understands his game right now. He understands his limitations. And like I mentioned, just because he's a lack of mid-range game doesn't mean he's not going to be good at the next level. Like he could just know his role, come off flare screens, come off screens and pin downs, and he could still be efficient. Like he could still be efficient three-point shooter, and his footwork could get better. Because it's not like he moves terribly. It's just I don't know if he's going to be able to keep up with twitchy guys, but like average speed guys with decent footwork, he's able to stay in front and he's able to just really hound them and overall try to use his physical profile. Like he tries to get up in guys' jerseys. Like he really tries on that end of the floor. Again, he's 19 years old. He's young. I'm not saying he's going to be a star, but I think he could be a quality rotational player. I do think he needs to make better reads as a passer. He's not a main ball handler right now. He's not an isolation scorer. He's going to get buckets within the flow of the offense. That is what he is right now, but he has fantastic hands defensively. He does a great job just poking the ball away and being scrappy, and he may look like a baby. Like you see this dude 19 years old, he looks like a fucking kid, like a little kid, but he has a dog mentality, and he may take some time, but I wouldn't mind if we stashed him in the G League, and then with the experience, for the next at least 6 years or however long he would be here, if we go on to draft him, if he's available at our spot, it's like we get a knockdown three-point shooter that has great hands. He's a good athlete in transition. He really likes fighting on the glass. He's just an overall hustler, and don't just look at his stats. There's way more beyond that, and you never know with roles and how they're going to be at the NBA level. Ron Baker was thought of as the top option, like at Wichita State, that guy. And who was the better NBA player? Fred VanVleet. So there's a chance Johnny Furphy, all the talk was about Dickinson. All the talk was also about a guy of McCullers, at least like being the impactful players, having the high volume. But Johnny Furphy may be the better NBA pro and translate better. Let me know down below your thoughts on Johnny Furphy, and peace out, y'all.